Well, hello, YouTube. In today's episode of Know Your Rights, we will be covering why every year cities spend millions of dollars on police misconduct and why holding departments accountable is so difficult. If you like this type of content and want to see more content like it, please take a moment and subscribe to our channel. If you have a video you would like me to break down, please send it to me at knowyourrightsnews@gmail.com. The link is in the description below. Now, without further ado, let's dive right into this video. In the spring of 2016, the city of Cleveland decided to pay $6 million to the family of Tamara Rice, a 12-year-old child who was shot and killed by a city police officer in late 2014. The lawsuit filed by Tamara Rice's family was one of the few avenues of justice available to them. The city's decision to settle the family's wrongful death case for such a huge sum of money was all the more noteworthy because a grand jury had already decided not to charge the officers involved. The Rice family expressed their hope that the settlement will stimulate a movement for true change in our culture and our nation's policing after it was revealed. However, in the 5 years since Tamara Rice's death, Cleveland has paid out more money in police misconduct settlements than in the 5 years prior. The city paid $7.9 million in 2017, including $3 million for half of the payment to the Rice family. The city of Cleveland also paid out $6 million in 2019. What are your thoughts on why Cleveland is paying out so much money on police misconduct settlements? Is this an indication that the city policing issues have worsened, or proof that more victims of police brutality have been persuaded to come forward, or that the city has begun to pay residents more liberally for their losses? Depending on your point of view, the data may be interpreted as a warning that Cleveland still has work to do, or as evidence that the city is finally taking police misbehavior seriously. These are critical questions which just adds to the frustration of not having the answers. Holding police officers accountable for misconduct has become an urgent issue as the public has watched incident after incident of police abuse. Despite the increased focus, criminal charges against police officers are still uncommon. When police interactions go bad, victims' only option for legal redress and financial recompense is to file a civil lawsuit. The ensuing settlement can be costly for the city, which is typically on the hook for the payouts, meaning that taxpayers underwrite the majority of them, and those costs can motivate communities to undertake broader changes. Successful settlements can also be a valuable source of information for communities committed to police reform. Cities and police departments need to know how much they are spending for police abuse and what kinds of incidences are most common and expensive if they want to reduce misconduct and spend less of taxpayers' money. However, police settlements are a tangle of inconsistencies in and of themselves. We have public records from 31 of the 50 cities with the highest police to civilian ratios in the country, including Cleveland. Over the last 10 years, communities have spent more than $3 billion to settle misconduct cases according to our data. However, much like Cleveland, the statistics left us with more questions than solutions. It was practically impossible for us to determine if anything was changing in any given city, let alone whether those shifts were for the better or for the worse, due to shoddy, confused, or incomplete record keeping paired with a slew of local issues. As a result of these issues, it's difficult to determine which communities are doing better job of minimizing police misconduct than others, and how the burden on taxpayers is moving as a result. And despite the fact that police violence has become a national issue, with President Biden now advocating for systematic improvements, our analysis shows that we are still a long way from knowing if things are getting better. $3 billion appears to be a substantial sum of money. However, the vast majority of money, $2.5 billion over 10 years, went to the country's three largest cities, which has combined budgets of roughly $115 billion last year. Smaller towns spent significantly less money than New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago. A number of them, including Milwaukee, Detroit, and San Francisco, spent tens of millions of dollars on police misconduct settlements during the same period. You could be forgiven for believing from this data that these cities with lower totals are faring far better in terms of police misconduct than New York City or even Milwaukee. However, figuring out what really is going on isn't easy. To begin with, it's absolutely feasible that we're simply missing data. Many communities told us they didn't keep data in a way that would allow them or anybody else to easily examine how much money was being spent on police wrongdoing. A few places responded to our public records request by sending us a stack of court documents and instructing us to calculate the totals on our own. Others gave data that was easier to evaluate but was still missing relative instances, and then they would refuse to explain why data was missing. There is no rule or regulation about what cities have to collect, said John Rappaport, a University of Chicago law professor who investigates police misconduct compensation. That is why he claims making sense of the vast amount of different information about police settlements is so difficult. It is based on the idea that data already exists and that it only needs to be collected. And that is not always the case. According to experts, a variety of factors determine the number and size of settlements in any given location. UCLA law professor Joanna Swartz recently studied the police forces in Philadelphia and Houston, which are both equal in size. Despite this, she discovered that in a 2-year period, Philadelphia had 10 times the number of civil rights lawsuits filed against the city and its department as Houston. She rattled off a long list of difficult to quantify reasons for this. Some states have rules that are more protective of cops, making it more likely the claims will be rejected with no compensation. A city like New York City, for example, might have more civil rights lawyers eager to take on cases involving police brutality. The amount a city will pay in a settlement may be capped, either formally or informally. It is likely that more juries in some parts of the country are more inclined to decide in favor of victims of police wrongdoing, providing towns with incentives to settle claims before they go to trial. Because filing a lawsuit is so costly and time consuming, people may only do so when they are victims of police misconduct, enabling other harmful actions to go unnoticed. These elements may be difficult to pinpoint, but they can generate feedback loops that have a significant impact on whether or not lawsuits are filed, and if so, for how much. They also make it more difficult to determine whether a link between settlements and actual levels of police misconduct, or the degree of misconduct, for example, which percentage of occurrences result in property damage rather than bodily harm. Some of these issues may be rectified with improved record keeping. For example, if cities separated vehicle accident payments from use of force settlements, we would have learned a lot more about where a city's money is going and why. Well, YouTube, I hope you liked this video. If you want to see more content like this, please subscribe to our channel. Until next time, YouTube, stay safe out there.